1 Samuel chapter 25. David and Abigail. The day Samuel died, all Israel gathered together to mourn him. Then they buried him at his home in Ramah. Then David went down to the desert of Maon. There was a man of Maon who had property in Carmel, a very rich man, owner of 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. At this time he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. This man was named Nabal. His wife's name was Abigail. The woman was intelligent and beautiful, but the man himself, a Calebite, was rough and ill-mannered. When David heard in the desert that Nabal was shearing his sheep, he sent 10 young men to the farm with this instruction: "Go to Nabal in Carmel and greet him for me. Speak to him in these words: Peace be with you and your family. Peace be with all that is yours. I hear that you have shearers with you. Now when your shepherds were with us, we did not harm them, neither did they miss anything while they were in Carmel. Ask your servants and they will tell you. So be kind to your servants, since we come on a festive day. Please give them and your son David whatever you can." When David's young men arrived, they delivered this message to Nabal in David's name and then waited. But Nabal answered David's servants, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse?" Many are the servants nowadays who run away from their masters. Must I take my bread, my wine, my meat which I have slaughtered for my shearers, and give it to men who come from I do not know where? At this, David's young men turned back and returned to him, reporting everything Nabal had said. David then said to his men, "Let every man strap on his sword," and every one of them, including David, strapped on his sword. About 400 men followed David, while 200 remained with the supplies. One of Nabal's servants told Abigail, his wife, "David sent messengers from the desert to greet our master, but he insulted them. Yet these men were very good to us. We suffered no harm and did not miss anything while we were living among them during our stay in the open country. They were like a wall for us night and day while we were tending the sheep in their midst. Now think over what you should do, for our master and his entire family are surely doomed to die. He is so wicked that no one can speak to him." Abigail hurriedly prepared 200 loaves, 2 leather flasks of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of pressed raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on asses. Then she said to her servants, "Go on ahead and I shall follow you." But she told her husband nothing of this. As she rode down the mountain on her ass, David and his men were coming down from the other direction when she met them. David was reflecting. It was useless guarding all that this fellow had in the desert. Although he lost nothing belonging to him, he has returned me evil for good. May God curse David if by morning I leave a single male alive among those who belong to him. On seeing David, Abigail quickly dismounted from the ass and threw herself on the ground before him. As she fell at his feet, and she said, "My lord, let the blame be on me. Let your handmaid speak to you. Listen to my words. Let not my lord pay attention to this ill-mannered man Nabal, for he is just what his name means. He is a fool. I, your handmaid, did not see the young men whom you sent. Now, my lord, as the Lord lives and as you live, it is the Lord who has restrained you from shedding blood and avenging yourself. Let your enemies and those who speak to harm my lord become like Nabal. And now let these presents which I have brought you, my lord, be given to the young men who follow you. And please forgive me for any offense I have given you. The Lord will certainly give you a lasting family, because you are fighting the battles of the Lord, and no evil shall be found in you as long as you live." Should anyone make an attempt on your life, may the life of my Lord be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of the Lord your God. May he hurl away the lives of your enemies as from the hollow of a sling. So when the Lord fulfills his promises and appoints you as commander over Israel, you shall have no reason to grieve or to feel any grief or regret for having unrightfully shed blood or taken revenge yourself. May the Lord bless you, and you, my Lord, remember your handmaid. David then said to Abigail, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you to meet me today. Blessed be your good judgment, and may you yourself be blessed. For you have prevented me from shedding blood and avenging myself today. For as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, he has prevented me from hurting you. If you did not hurry to meet me, not a single male belonging to Nabal would have been alive by morning. David accepted what she had brought him and told her, Go back home in peace. I have listened to you and granted your request. Abigail went back to Nabal and found him holding a feast in his house. He was joyful and very drunk, so Abigail did not mention anything to him until the following day. When morning came and Nabal had slept it off, his wife spoke to him all about these things. On hearing it, Nabal had a stroke and he remained paralyzed. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be the Lord who has avenged the insult I received at the hand of Nabal and has prevented me from doing wrong. The Lord himself has made Nabal's wrongdoings fall on his own head. David then sent his servants to Abigail in Carmel to propose marriage to her, saying, David has sent us to you to say that he wants you to be his wife. Rising and bowing to the ground, Abigail answered, May I be a slave to wash the feet of my Lord's servants. She quickly rose and mounted an ass, and accompanied by 5 of her servants, she left with David's messengers and became his wife. David had also married Ahinoam of Jezreel, making both her and Abigail his wives. Saul in the meantime had given Michal, his daughter and David's wife, to Palti, son of Laish, who was from Galim. 1 Samuel chapter 26. David spares Saul again. Ziphites came to Saul in Gibeah to tell him that David was hiding on the hill of Hakilah, east of Jeshimon. On hearing this, Saul went down with 3,000 picked men of Israel to the desert of Ziph in search of David. He encamped on the hill of Hachilah beside the road east of Jeshimon. When David, who was in the desert, saw that Saul had come after him, he sent out spies who confirmed Saul's arrival. David came to Saul's place of encampment and saw where Saul was resting with Abner, son of Ner, chief of his army. Saul was sleeping in the center of the camp, and his men were around him. David then asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, son of Zeruiah and Joab's brother, Who will go down into the camp with me to Saul? Abishai answered, I will go down with you. So David and Abishai went into the camp by night and found Saul sleeping in the center, his spear thrust into the ground at his head, while Abner and the rest of the soldiers were sleeping around him. Abishai said to David, God has delivered your enemy into your hands this day. Let me nail him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I will not have to strike twice. But David answered Abishai, Do not harm him, for who could harm the Lord's anointed and not be punished? As the Lord lives, the Lord himself will strike him down. Either his time will come and he will die, or he will be killed in battle. Let me not harm the Lord's anointed. Instead, take the spear that is at his head and the water jug, and let us be on our way. So David took the spear and the water jug from near Saul's head, and they left. Nobody saw, nobody knew, nobody woke up. All remained asleep, for a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen on them. Going across to an opposite slope, David stood at a distance on top of the hill and called out to both Abner, son of Ner, and the soldiers. "Why do you not answer, Abner?" Abner answered back, "Who are you to awaken the king?" David said to Abner, "Are you not a man? Who is like you in Israel? Why then did you not closely guard your lord the king? An ordinary man has broken into the camp and made an attempt on the life of the king your lord. Is this the way you fulfill your duties? You deserve to die because you did not guard your lord, the Lord's anointed. Now look for the king's spear and the water jug that were near his head." Saul recognized David's voice and asked, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" David answered, "It is my voice, my lord, O king. Why does my lord pursue me? What have I done? What am I guilty of? Now let my lord, the king, hear my words. If it is the Lord who has incited you against me, may an offering appease him. But if men have done so, may they be cursed before the Lord. For they have made me an exile to this day and have driven me from my share of the inheritance of the Lord, as if saying to me, 'Go and serve other gods.' Let not my blood flow to the ground, far from the presence of the Lord. For the king of Israel has come to seek out a flea as a man hunts a partridge in the mountains." Then Saul said, "I have done wrong. Come back, David, my son. I will not harm you any more, since you valued my life this day. I have acted like a fool and have made a great mistake." David answered, "I have your spear with me, O king. Let one of your servants come over to fetch it. The Lord rewards everyone for his righteousness and loyalty. Today he delivered you into my hands, but I refused to harm the Lord's anointed. As I valued your life today, may the Lord value my life and deliver me from all distress." Finally Saul told David, "Blessed are you, David, my son. You shall succeed in everything you do." Then David went his way, and Saul returned home. Psalm 119, verse 121 to 144. I have done what is just and right. Do not leave me to my oppressors. Ensure the well-being of your servant. Let not the arrogant oppress me. I strained my eyes searching for your help, watching for the fulfillment of your promise. Treat your servant with compassion and instruct me in your decrees. Give me knowledge. I am your servant who desires to understand your statutes. It is time for you, O Lord, to act, for they have broken your law. I love your commandments more than gold, more than the finest gold. Because my steps are guided by your precepts, I hate all false ways. Wonderful are your decrees, my soul cannot but keep them. As your words unfold, light is shed, and even the simple-hearted can understand. I open my mouth and gasp, yearning for your commandments. Turn to me then and take pity, as you always do to those who love your name. Direct my steps according to your promises, and never let evil rule over me. Rescue me from human oppression, and help me keep your precepts. Favor me with your smile and teach me your statutes. My eyes shed streams of tears because your law is disobeyed. O Lord, you are just, and your judgments are right. You have pronounced your decrees in justice and faithfulness. I burn with zeal, seeing how my foes ignore your word. Your promise has been well tested, and your servants love it. Though I am lowly and despised, I do not forget your precepts. Your justice is everlasting, and your law is true. In calamity and in anguish, your ordinances are my delight. Your statutes are just forever. Give me understanding that I may live. Luke chapter 22, verse 47 to 71. Jesus is arrested. Jesus was still speaking when a group of people appeared, and the man named Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him, and Jesus said to him, "Is it with a kiss that you betrayed the Son of Man?" As Jesus' followers saw what would happen, they said to him, "Master, shall we use the sword?" And one of them struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. But Jesus said, "Stop, let them have their way." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus spoke to those who had come out against him, the chief priests, officers of the temple police, and elders, and he said to them, "Have you really set out as against a robber? Do you need swords and clubs to arrest me? Day after day I was among you in the temple, and you could have arrested me. But this is your hour when the power of darkness prevails." Peter's denial and Jewish trial. Then they seized him and took him away to the high priest's house. Peter followed at a distance. When they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had gathered around it, Peter sat among them. A maidservant noticed him as he sat in the light, and looking at him intently, she exclaimed, "This man also was with him." But Peter denied it, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." A little later, someone else who saw him said, "You too are one of them." Peter replied, "My friend, I am not." After about an hour, another insisted, "This man was certainly with Jesus, for he too is a Galilean." Again Peter denied, "My friend, I do not know what you are talking about." He had not finished saying this when a cock crowed. The Lord turned around and looked at Peter, and he remembered the word that the Lord had spoken. "Before the cock crows today, you will have denied me 3 times. Peter went outside and wept bitterly. Meanwhile, the guards were mocking and beating Jesus. They blindfolded him and then asked, "Who hit you? Tell us, prophet." And they hurled many more insulting words at him. At daybreak, the council of the elders of the people, among whom were the chief priests and the teachers of the law, assembled again. Then Jesus was brought before them, and they began questioning him. "Tell us if you are the Christ." Jesus replied, "You will not believe if I tell you, and neither will you answer if I ask you. Yet from now on the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." In chorus they asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" And Jesus said to them, "It is you who say that I am." Then they said, "What need have we of witnesses? We have heard it for ourselves from his own lips."